Hey there, Stephanie Joy with all things Social Security and the law practice of Joy Disability. Here's a short little segment from our recent live stream Q&A that we have every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel, All Things Social Security. Enjoy, and if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments, and I will be sure to get to them. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
Hey, how are we doing today? People are just starting to pop in. I hope everyone's doing great. Hope you had a great week. It's only Wednesday, but half the week anyway. For most people anyway. Everything is good on this end. Busy, busy, busy as always. Rob is in the house. Hi all. Christina says, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I beat you to it, Christine, but you probably already typed it and I'm just slow on the tape, right? I'm sure that's what it was. Yeah, because we're like 15 minutes behind. Just catching up with questions. Gonza. Hi, Mark. I don't think we've met. It's your first time. Good morning, says Mark. I was just wondering. I got the form for the adult function. My lawyer hasn't got back to me, and it will be in my best interest to wait for them to help me fill that out, or should I just do it? Okay, he's saying, would it be in my best interest to have them help me fill it out? For sure, Mark. However, many won't do it. Many will say, you do it, we'll send it in for you, or you do it and you send it in, and the chips will fall. I don't agree with that at all. People hear me on here all the time saying, and that's probably why I have the function. The first thing, I think, the first set of videos, probably the first set of videos in this channel a number of years ago now, like COVID time, shortly after COVID started, was a playlist on the function report questions and what to think about when you answer them, if you want to check that out. Because invariably, I hate to make y'all paranoid, but it is very easy to say something in a way that will be misconstrued. And if you recall, well, you've seen the function report questions. Some of them kind of, well, we look at it as can be cross-referenced with what you'd put in a particular question on the work history report and even some questions in the application. That's why we always kind of encourage everybody to get all those future reports done now, the draft, so that then they can all be cross-referenced like, well, I thought I said so in the application material this, and I said this. Let's ask about it. And that way nothing gets sent in early that later on you regret because that wasn't even the way that person didn't mean it that way. So ideally they will help you. I don't know that they will because resources tend to be short and most firms don't have it to have someone spend 2 or 3 hours with you, but I don't know. And they probably don't do it in the apparently very unique way we do these things. We get them way early and they're already reviewed and all that business. Yeah, so if they will, that's great, and then they're worth their weight in gold. If they won't, just do the best you can. Feel free to use the video series on that. The playlist is actually called like function report do's and don'ts, I think. And I haven't updated it too much recently because most of it hasn't changed. But when something new comes up that's like, I don't think we actually discussed that potentiality, and then I'll throw one in there. Rob says, what are my chances with the grid rules? 58 years old. Oh, me too, Rob. We were roommates in different rooms. I'm such a nerd. Electrician. Don't I say that joke all the time, guys? Electrician, spinal stenosis, and diabetic neuropathy. Same job, 26 years. Well, you definitely have skills that are transferable. So that's the one prong of 3 you have to address. The neuropathy, if that's in your hands, that might affect, depending if your electrician job was very hands-on and all that, what kind of things could affect, because you have to prove. Problem number 2 is that you have to prove you can't do the electrician job. And then you got to prove you can't transfer those high-end brainiac skills you have to a job of the lower exertional that you need to prove also. Prong 1, you have to be unable to do medium level work, Robs, and you have to, so therefore, be limited to light or less. So even if you could do light or sedentary from a physical standpoint, exertional standpoint, you could still prevail if you got the other 2, which is, but I can't be an electrician because, and I am unable to transfer those skills. They are either not transferable to something that is light or sedentary, or I cannot personally transfer them because I have now focus and concentration issues, or my memory's shot. And then, of course, that's when you have to start working up that contention. You can't just say, can you tell I'm sweaty? So I think you could have a great chance if it's properly worked up. I hope you've got good attorneys on that, showing you what needs to be delved into. So like, for instance, people don't often think, like, you got the spinal stenosis. I'm assuming that affects a lot of standing for any length of time. And if you were a hands-on electrician, say residential or commercial, that's a lot of standing, right? You're not really doing any sitting. If you were an electrician working on little tiny parts, maybe that's a sitting guy. So it all might depend. So spinal stenosis could affect and help be the proof to get you through that exertional, can't do medium work anymore like I used to. I mean, it might have been medium work before because you maybe had to do those big spools and, and how much were you lifting is basically what that's about. Diabetic neuropathy is where I was getting to. How's your dexterity with electricians? You got to be really careful. And then if you slip, you could electrocute yourself or, and then also really important is your mental acuity. And I'm 58. We all start slipping. So, and yours is the kind, unlike mine, where you have to be precise in the moment, safety oriented, not leave something out. If you're residential or commercial and you forget something, and now you'll have a hazard for the people that are going to live there next. I mean, it's kind of a high pressure, high skilled brainiac job, aside from the physical requirements, right? So I would look to all of that. Like if you have focus concentration issues, whether it's from pain, or because the anxiety has developed over this whole being disabled business, worried about your health, worried about whatever it is, anxiety can be a real focus destroyer. But you can't just say it. You have to actually speak it to your doctors, and ideally you're going to be getting talk therapy over it to help establish that you have a diagnosis, and then you have to be the one that complains about the symptoms that we're talking about. So hopefully that's something you're doing with your lawyers, just delving through there and finding out all the things. If they ask the right questions, then they're going to know that these things exist for you. If they do, and they can say, okay, so in order to get the evidence of that, you need to do this, proceed this way, and all that. It's the thing that the attorneys that are doing that, like me, are nags about, as our clients are like, you can almost feel their annoyance coming through the vibes in the world. Yeah, sorry guys. 36 Rob's been doing electrician. It's a great career though, right? Cindig's in the house. Good to see you, Cin. Good morning. Is trading your own stock amount unearned income, so not SGA? Generally, that would be yes, unless you're day trading or something similar that shows that you are making that now. You're a business. You're doing it that much. So otherwise, selling stocks, ideally you have someone else doing it for you. And then you're not putting in that brainiac work or sitting at a desk and doing the administrative work, which is jobs. But if you are not making over SGA anyway, they'd have to differentiate the few hours you might put in a month and what would that be paid if you were a secretary compared to SGA, unless you're really doing it heftily, like all day long, even if you lose money, it probably wouldn't be seen as substantial gainful activity. Unless the hours, again, are high. But if you're doing it just like a regular person who's trying to, make their money work for them, like we are all trying to do, it shouldn't be a problem. It's just 20 minutes a day to click things. I would argue that is not a job. That is you taking care of your finances. 20 minutes a day, reviewing things. We're supposed to be looking at our bank accounts every day, right? To make sure they're not hacked. Right? Probably most of us don't do it, and we hopefully get texts on our phone. But I would argue that is not. But it will start looking more like it if you're racking in the dough. If you are making a full-time income doing it 20 minutes a day, I would be careful, because think about it. Don't you also have to research and like what's the time not clicking the buttons? But generally, if you're doing that, Cindy, I want to talk to you. You're making a lot of money in 20 minutes a day. Please let me talk to you. But otherwise, yeah, it's not even. I would not be writing it down as a job. Absolutely. Virginia says, number 3, CE wants to see my impairment. My daughter is my caregiver. Wants to see my impairment. Well, they're supposed to examine you, sure. I can't drive because of the light, and cook and clean cause of my bones getting weak. He's at California, 53, and doctors say it's going to last more than 12 months. Okay. I'm not really sure what the question is, Virginia. Jeremy says, so if your most recent work is not even a 9 to 5, and clearly haven't done a 9 to 5 anytime recently or successfully, how does the argument of RFC go based on occasionally making over SGA for self-employment? Self-employment is obviously you have a bigger burden because you can say whatever you want and it's not put down in a pay stub by an objective third-party employer. The question is it SGA? It's not limited to whether it's 9 to 5. If it's 9 to 5, it's already SGA, even if you volunteer and make no money, as a general rule. So if someone's doing, I had a client once who earned $60 an hour, used to make big bucks full time, but I hadn't done full time in like 10 years because of this invasive systemic disease. But the company was extremely, you want to talk about nice. Let the hours be cut till it was 5 hours a week. And that was under SGA, and she could file. And we did win, and she still can earn SGA. It was a younger person, so she's got CDRs, for the endless foreseeable future. So very minimal work, 10 hours a week would be way above SGA for her. And that would not, you can't argue that you're disabled from earning substantial gainful income from your disability. You've got impairments, but you're still able to do SGA. So it's going to, the numbers are going to be a black and white rule, the numbers that show up on your earnings statement, except for the fact that if you had impairment related work expenses, IRWEs, and you could prove them through receipts and such, you can, and if you're just over SGA, but I had $100 of medications every month out of pocket, then you could subtract it down and I could kick you under SGA. So you got to look at the money. It's not just the hours for B2 or self-employment. Okay. You got to look at a bunch of things. So that's not about RFC. That's about step one. At all times that you're arguing, in your claim from your alleged onset on, was there SGA? Now, remember, there is such a thing as a failed work attempt. So if those occasionally going over SGA, it's brief enough to be failed work attempts, depends how occasional and how long each one, then that's another argument. Because if you can establish that it's a failed work attempt and it failed because of your disabilities and your impairments taking you down again and making you drop below SGA or not work at all, either one, it's fine, then that would be argued to be a failed work attempt. It rarely can ever be, I don't think it can be if you ever hit the 6-month mark in 6 consecutive months. And in between months, it has to be at least like a 30-day gap. So that's a place to start, is looking at your month by month and seeing, did my SGA, even though never full-time work, but it was still SGA, was it a failed work attempt? And then you overtly speak to the judge about, this was, I think this was a failed work attempt and this was a failed work attempt because my impairment brought, it was impairment related why I had to stop. You can't be because of COVID or I had to babysit my kids. You know what I mean? I lost my babysitter and I had to see him. It's got to be specifically disability related, which will be supported by those medical records one continues to do, particularly if they start to decompensate. So hopefully that helps explain that. It's not really RFC. It's at step one of the sequential evaluation process, which we have a playlist on, guys. If you don't know what the sequential evaluation process is, Jen says, if your case is based on sustained basis, if it's 6 months or more, you've just proven it's sustained. So sustained does not mean I can't keep a job more than a year. You're doing fine. That will sustain you. Keep getting a job for a year, or 7 months. You're making an income, you can pay your rent. If your sustained basis is 3 months here, 2 months here, 4 months here, and you're still, there's so much evidence that the impairment is getting in the way, whether that's through treatment, if you discuss with your doctor, I'm still working there 30 hours a week, but I can just feeling like I'm going to snap or whatever. And then, I feel, and you're talking about feeling more stressed or whatever, or if it's a back problem, you're like, I'm doing the 30 hours, but now I go home and I sleep till morning because it's aggravated my back. All those kind of things, they show up in the medical records, and that medical record supports why the person cut back again. So remember, sustained basis is not like a lifelong career sustained. Generally, if it's 6 months, you've done a good job in sustained work. So those failed work attempts need to be shorter. Excessive absences, can be a big deal. That's where pay stubs showing the amount of hours worked. If you ever get a write-up for absences, like you've been absent too much there, Jen, we love you, but, we need to run a business. Written warnings, guys, are great. I know they hurt when we get them. We feel insulted and unappreciated by our employer, but hold on to those bad boys if you have impairments and you're trying to still work, but you're not sure it's going to last forever, because those can help show historically what's been going on. They're very objective. Sick days on your pay stubs would be helpful. So if you kept pay stubs, or if the work was recent enough where you can get them online, the employer still has them, or you can write to the employer. Otherwise, it is just your word with less documentations backing it up. You can still say it, but not as weighty. Yes. And Jen, you're saying, and what if you weren't even employed under an employer anytime recently? If you have proof of the old stuff, great. If you don't, if you have an old coworker even that could, write a 795 that says I worked with her from blah, blah, blah to blah, blah, blah. She was really calling out sick a lot. Sometimes extended periods of time. The company we worked for was trying to work with her, but there came a point, like, there's something they could say if you have someone that worked with you, if they're willing to do it. If you can't, oftentimes we don't keep those relationships, but just saying, hey, Civil Chick is in the house. Hi, Civil Chick. Good morning, everyone. I forgot stuff. I forget stuff, so this is important. I have an adjudicator, but I am having issues reaching them. You left 2 messages, you've reached them. They don't need to call you back if there's no reason to call you back. If you're giving him information, which is your biggest job, there's nothing for you to really be asking him except for, do you have all of the medical records up to date from all the people I listed in my application or in my application and my appeal? Just so you know, adjudicator, I'm still seeing those doctors. Last time I saw so-and-so was this date, so-and-so was this date. So they're all very recent. Those kind of messages you can leave. I mean, ideally, if you said maybe the way it should be presented is because they are very busy, obviously, do your case properly and everybody else's. What if you say something like, here's my up-to-date stuff. And I would do this with frequency. At least maybe if you're going to the doctors a few times a month, I'd probably do it monthly. But say something to the effect of, here's my updated visits I've had. I'm hoping you order them. If you have any problem ordering them or any in the past, someone's not listening to you, some of these providers, because sometimes they're really bad, please let me know. You can call me and leave me a message and I will get on that. So you could do that. That's not a bad idea. So you don't really specify whether it's just to call you back. I mean, don't expect them to call you back to breathe at you and say, hi. We don't do that either. If you have a specific question that needs an answer, not a question like, and I'm not saying you did this, Sybil, but just for everybody else. Do you know how long this is going to take? What stage are you at? I wouldn't be doing that. Give them the information they need. Let them know that what has been transpiring. And please call me right away if any of these are not responding expeditiously. And I will bug them as well or whatever, I will contact them. So yeah, I'm just saying it that way because if everyone calls up and starts saying, I want to know the status, call me back with the status. They're going to be like, and unfortunately they don't have like a portal with you guys, like a lot of us lawyers do with our clients where we can message you and, get you the information you need if it's something that is able to be gotten to you. All right. Thanks guys. Have a great one. Be safe.